So I'm going to be talking about America's Historical Imprints. It's a database that you can find through OU libraries. And what I'm going to be going over is what all the database covers, who's the intended audience, and I'll also be demonstrating through screenshots some of the search and browsing features of the digital collection. So America's Historical Imprints is a digitized database for historical content. The series of collections are a product of Redex, and they're a provider of primary source documents. So for this database, that would include books written during the times that the documents cover, conference and meeting proceedings, law documents, literature, and a whole slew of other resources. In this first section, I'll be focusing on what all the database covers as far as content in its collections and subjects. So America's Historical Imprints provides historical documents. They range in date from 16th to the early 20th centuries. It has a wide range of subjects that pertain to everyday life in those times, and I'll cover what some of those topics are in another slide. And it also offers a help index that helps explain the different search features, as well as how to utilize the available documents to their full potential. Here is that help screen I mentioned. As you can see here, it's nice and simple. There are specific help topics like searching, viewing documents, troubleshooting, and even some hints. So in this second image here, you can see the page for the Boolean search operators help section. I like that they include some specific examples, and it actually really wound up being helpful to me later when I started my own search on the database. So America's Historical Imprints pulls items from across 9 of the different collections offered by Redex. As I stated earlier, these collections contain digitized primary source documents that run the gambit from advertisements to price lists to autobiographies to literature. There are hundreds of different types of items that have been indexed within this database. I've listed a few of them here on this slide, but by no means is this an extensive list. Also, these collections have a full text search feature that allows users to search within scanned documents. I found that it's not entirely consistent, but I could see this feature being especially helpful for people looking for specific ideas or phrases or even people within the text. Here you can see the subjects that the database covers. Along with the listed subject areas, each subject has its own subtopics that can also be browsed. In this next section, I'll be talking about the intended audience, what type or types of user would get the most out of using this resource. I'll also briefly go over some potential questions that searching America's Historical Imprints can help answer to give you an idea of what exactly it covers. So, who is this database intended for? Given the nature of the database, I think it would be an ideal go-to for academic research in American history and sociology and the humanities, as well as early American literature. You can find original source documents to back up research pertaining to life in early America. So, for example, if a researcher was wanting to compare the concept of childhood between the 18th century and the present, America's Historical Imprints could be an ideal place to start. And because it's so rich in history, it would also be great for students or historians or anyone with an interest in early American history. Some other questions you might find answers to using this database include, what was the understanding of cancer and related diseases in the 18th century? Or how would adults in the 18th century consider the manners of today's children? These sources would also be great for backing up historical claims of the impacts of historical events, or learning more about the works of authors from that time. Before showing you a search, I thought it would be a good idea to go over some of the convenient ways America's Historical Imprints helps users find documents through browsing, because it's a main feature on that front page. There are quite a few ways to browse the database depending on what you're looking for, and I'll go over a few of those. Below the search bar on the front page of the database, you can find the browsing feature, and it looks like this. So here is where you can browse documents by type, subject, author, place of publication, printing history, and language. Selecting Browse by Genre lets you browse the collections based on the type of document you're looking for. I highlighted some of the available document types earlier, but you can see here there are quite a few options. The next tab over allows you to browse documents by subject. In this screenshot, I have selected politics, and I'm looking at the subtopics that are contained within the subject, politics. And here's the Browse by Author tab. You'll find authors for the different types of documents, including some anonymous ones. That first author name is a great example of an anonymous author. And for some, you can also see when they lived, which can give you an idea of the time periods in which they were writing. And also you can see there's a history of printing tab, place of publication, and language. And I would view those as more for somebody who knows exactly the type of document they're looking for. You also have the option to browser search in a specific collection. This feature is located below the Browse feature. And rolling your mouse over each image gives you details about what each specific collection contains. So for example, African History and Culture has 1,300 works ranging in date from 1540 to 1921, and it also tells you from which physical collection these documents have been sourced. And in this final section, I'll be demonstrating what it is like performing a search within the database and actually showing you what the documents look like. So I decided I wanted to find documents on the women's suffrage movement in the late 19th century. I decided that I would first look for the works by women's suffrage leader Elizabeth Cady Stanton. So I searched her name using author as a search limiter. And here are those search results. The database found 4 documents authored by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And the results give me the date the document was published, where it was published, the author, and its physical description. So this first result, I can see that I've got a 1-page document written by Elizabeth Cady Stanton in 1859. And this is what that document looks like. There is a viewfinder feature on the top right of the screen, so a user can look at specific parts of the page. And navigation features on the top left allow the user to zoom in or out. And here we can see where you have the option to download the entire document as a PDF. This is helpful for when the document has multiple pages, because using this viewfinder that you see on this page is a little bit awkward for more than one page. And here is what that document looks like after I've searched for the word women within the text. And as you can see, the word women is highlighted throughout the document. Here is another example where I'm wanting to find some more general items on women's suffrage. I'm also wanting to find things that mention or have to do with one of the women's rights conventions. So I have entered women's suffrage in subject and women's rights convention within the text. And here are the results from that search. I can see that the result is the proceedings of the Women's Rights Convention that took place in New York in 1866. So I'm viewing the proceedings of the 11th National Women's Rights Convention. The last document I looked at was only 1 page, but this one is 77. You can turn pages by hitting Next, but downloading all of the pages as a PDF would be a lot easier in this case. As I mentioned, that viewfinder can be a little bit awkward when you're trying to read through a document that has multiple pages. You can also use the drop-down table of contents to take you to a specific page. It's pretty easy to navigate if there are subject headings or separate chapters. It's very good at telling you exactly where in the document you are. And you also have the option, like I said, to view or save pages or the entire document as a PDF. So I've shown you some of the features of America's historical imprints and explained the scope and audience, the browsing features, and I've also demonstrated what it's like performing a search using this collection. As I stated before, I would recommend this database to those doing research on history and culture because the collections contain thousands of historical primary source documents ranging in age from the 16th to early 20th centuries. When you have a specific area of study in mind, the database's search and browsing features are easily utilized, and users new to the resource can easily access the help page for advice and examples of searches. I hope this demonstration was useful. I really enjoyed getting to know the database, and I hope you do too.